Very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to yet another uLaw webinar. And today's webinar is going to focus on the solo power. Our goal with today's webinar is to highlight practice management, legal accounting, and some other interesting tools that may come your way that you could probably look at as you continue down your journey as a solo entrepreneur. Before I move forward with the webinar today, I do want to highlight that today's webinar is not accredited for CPD. We have our upcoming CPD credited webinar towards the end of the month. And we have a really new topic, which is going to talk about legal expense management. Today's topic is just, again, it's going to highlight uLaw. It's going to highlight some other tools that you as a legal professional should consider down your journey and path as an entrepreneur, or if it's a small law firm. So today's topic, again, yet another fun-filled session. It's going to be about solo power. We're going to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship, the pros and cons, as we've heard from our friends and other clients that we've dealt with who have gone down that path and have come out successfully. Their learnings are all part of this webinar as well. And we want to spend about 15-20 minutes as towards the end of the webinar to kind of highlight certain aspects of uLaw that really help you to be efficient, save time, and do what you need to do to maximize your use as a solo entrepreneur. So moving along, today's agenda, as every uLaw webinar does have an agenda, we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, as I mentioned, some of the pros and cons of being an entrepreneur and understanding how we can embrace the whole concept of being an entrepreneur. And this applies to legal professionals who many times, whether it's a small law firm or if it's by yourself, you are a business owner and you are an entrepreneur in the making. So we wanted to highlight that component of your business. And why is it required to automate really from an entrepreneur perspective? What can you do to save time? Some tools and tips that solo practitioners can take advantage of. Briefly highlight some of the differences between practice management and legal accounting and how uLaw has kind of integrated both practice management and legal accounting into one software. Again, highlighting the need to save time, empower the small team and the entrepreneur, and followed by a 10 to 15 minute demo of the uLaw components. Okay. I will let everyone log in as they come in, and please use the chat window to ask any questions that you may have. We do have our support staff available who would be able to answer those questions, and I will reiterate them at the end of the session as well. And we do have a link that we have shared with our chat window. We would highly encourage you to click on that link and provide us your feedback about how we can do better with these webinars. And the sole purpose of us conducting this is to provide educational series of webinars to our legal clients and professionals across Canada. All right, so moving along, really talking about who is an entrepreneur, what is it about to be an entrepreneur. The wiki definition that I Googled is an entrepreneur is someone who creates and runs a business, and that's the simplest way in which they've defined it. And being a legal professional is also about running a business. It's about running a legal business, and all the other components that go behind running a business do apply to you as well. So managing your business expenses, managing your revenue, understanding how a profit and loss statement is very essential and how that helps you plan your business better for coming months and years ahead. Those are all common rules that apply to your game as well. Some highlights about entrepreneurship that I wanted to share today. When an entrepreneur starts a new business, there's risk involved, so that's a given. And as much as it's a given, it is something that many times is not, it's overlooked. Risk is a big part of being an entrepreneur, and again, it's the chance of losing something. When you are an employee and you're actually working for someone else, obviously those risks don't necessarily apply. But again, given today's context in the industries that we're in, the risk applies regardless. In fact, one of our client friends mentioned that being an entrepreneur is so empowering because your future is in your hands. Many times when you're an employee, you've heard of the stories where you actually let go, you're fired, many times not for your own reasons. The company doesn't do well. So when you're employed, obviously you run by the rules, and a big part of that is not knowing what that security means. Being an entrepreneur means, you don't have such rules, but it's also equally important that you bring bread to the table. You are in control over what you want to be and how you want to run your business and your life. And being an entrepreneur also means that you work for yourself or work for a part of a team that you put together by design. And small firms, obviously, this is a quick survey that we actually use in our webinar. Small firms employ about half of the U.S.'s private workforce, and they create around 64% of all new jobs. So as much as we talk about being an entrepreneur and the solo entrepreneur, a big trend that we're seeing in the legal industry today across Ontario and growing into other parts of the country is you start small. You are now able to then, over a period of time, build a network of such solo entrepreneurs and actually end up forming a much larger network of such entrepreneurs that all work together as a bigger entity. And again, this can differ based on the silos of practice, but we're seeing a big trend towards how solo entrepreneurs get together, either to form a smaller legal firm or a law firm, or actually are a network of individuals that are able to handle client requirements. So today's context is all about how the situation and the environment around you has given you that opportunity to take advantage of. And it's also about, one way you can gain a sense of what business is like is by investigating an internship or a apprenticeship. And again, this is important. We find whether it's paralegals working for a law firm or part of, where law students finish school and are actually doing an apprenticeship at a law firm, regardless of what that is, if you want to get a better sense for what that is, you could talk to your colleagues, talk to seniors in the industry, but actually being part of a business, understanding its nuances would actually give you a better handle for how to manage it, would equip you or prepare you to give you what you need to run with being an entrepreneur. Okay, so again, this is very high level. We want to just set the stage before we move on to some other components of the presentation. Talking about this really doesn't mean we're discouraging this. It's really talking about this is really to encourage you, but with all the facts that you need before taking that leap. So moving along with that theme, this slide obviously highlights some of the key risks that you should be aware of when you consider being an entrepreneur. Potential business failure, right? That's a given. It's part of, by design, when you start a business, you are working towards a success ratio. You want to ensure the successful running of that business, but a potential risk is that for whatever reason it may be, there is a potential opportunity for that business to fail as well, okay? And when that happens, then you take full responsibility for whether it's success or failure of your own business, and it rests on your shoulder. In running a business, you should expect unexpected obstacles, problems that can happen without, warning, giving you an upfront warning. Financial insecurity. When you start afresh, you are dependent on money that you've saved. You're dependent on loans that you're able to get from financial institutions, from friends, family, whatever it takes to have a very nimble, humble opening to your business. And you're going to need money to not only pay yourself, but pay off business expenses as well that you may incur in running your business. Okay, so, and when you start afresh, and this is something that we've surveyed internally within our client base, the first year is always that hard year of you being recognized. So that's where you're spending a lot of time and money to market your service. And that's the year of a make or break, where you probably have the highest level of financial insecurity, where every money counts. And in lines with that, uLaw has proposed that any solo entrepreneur, whether that's a student or someone who's graduated, but this is the first time you're starting off being an entrepreneur, we extend our student rate to them, which is probably one of the lowest costs for a legal accounting software, of $29 a month. Okay, so we understand that. We understand how that first year can be that much more important from a financial perspective, and we've done our little bit to extend our rates according to that. And the final one would be long hours and hard work. And it's not unusual for entrepreneurs to work a lot of extra hours to make their business successful. And this is especially by design during the initial startup process. So when you start a legal business, you have to consider the marketing dollars that you need to put in to ensure that people are aware of your service. You want to be part of a network of people who may need your service as part of an extension. You want to obviously talk to family and friends so that they are all aware of who you are and what you're able to accomplish in certain silos. And you probably, over a period of time, after you start your business, want to make yourself aware and the business aware of areas of practice that you believe you can excel in so that you can focus more in marketing those areas and services. Okay? And in doing that by design and by putting in many of the components that go behind being an entrepreneur, you are able to, and also being aware of some of these risks, you become that much more prepared in doing what you want to do. Now, we spoke about, again, this list continues to expand, but when we spoke about being an entrepreneur, being that solo business owner, and how that first year, that first 2 years, or 6 months, whatever that initial time period may be, where money's tight, you're just getting started, and you want the maximum bang for your buck, we made a quick list of tools that you probably should explore, if not you're already doing it, which gives you the ability to automate many of the tasks that go behind running your legal business. Okay, and in no specific order, we talk about document management, which would become a key component of your legal business. As you start generating documents, as you start scanning in those client IDs, there is a need, and your ledgers and your financial documents, there's a certain need as a legal professional to retain those documents over a long period of time. So with the advent of technology and with the need to be mobile at all times, you probably want to consider a cloud-based document management system. And if you do consider a cloud-based document management system, it's not a must. You could still store your documents locally in your laptop and have that accessible and carry the laptop with you. But if you like it to be on the cloud, some of the top cloud-based document storage companies that offer that service include Google Drive, OneDrive from Microsoft, Dropbox, Box. Those are some of the common, highly secure, but at the same time reputed companies that provide cloud storage for you. When you start off using marketing, branding your company, I've found it, and we within our company use this tool called Fiverr. It's basically a website, and you can actually search for specific work that you want to get done, whether it's social media awareness, whether it's marketing, if you just want a logo tweaked or just created, whatever it is that you require to run your business and market it. If you want to write content so that people reading your website and the content on your website understand the areas of practice that you're good at so that you can establish that thought leadership, whatever that may be, please do explore Fiverr, and they're pretty cost effective and one of the options that you may want to keep in mind. When you look at designing websites, it's become a really intuitive aspect to legal business, is to create a website that quickly highlights the areas of practice you focus on, your years of experience, if that's relevant, and how you better serve your clients. So a website is a great visiting card, and it's easier for you to talk to a client or talk to a friend and refer them to your website. And if you're on that path of creating a website for your law firm, please do consider easy tools that save time, but at the same time enable you to make professional websites such as WordPress and Wix. In fact, Wix allows you to just drag and drop cool themes that you may want to use, different themes that they provide you, so that you can design your website yourself. Visiting cards are a big part of the legal business, handing out those business cards and having them available at different locations. We use Vistaprint as one of the options. You may find your local printer, but you still want to consider and keep options, understand prices, compare them. But Vistaprint also allows you to print other marketing collaterals, whether it's brochures, documents. It's a good website to explore. Meetup and Eventbrite are growing networking sites where you could actually find common-minded individuals. Obviously, there's Facebook and LinkedIn. There's a lot of groups around, and Twitter as well, as we've highlighted, where you find a lot of legal professionals as well as associations having Facebook pages and LinkedIn groups where you can share common thoughts and have answers for some of the questions that you may have. So it's all, things that you probably are already doing, but again, just want to give you some options here. A very new aspect to legal business is accepting both trust and general payments through credit cards. Okay, so for a really long time, it was checks and money orders and all of that, and that evolved into email payments, which is still in existence. You still have people paying checks and everything else. But as we continue going down that convenience path, a very new convenience that you have is accepting credit card payments. Again, to avoid any issues. I mean, you don't want a bounced check. You don't want to be doing that at the end of the month when you're reconciling. So if there's a way that you can accept payments, which would quickly validate if there's actually money in the client's bank or not, doesn't get better than that. I've added a new company from the last time we did this called Pluto. It's actually a Canadian company, and you should check them out. It's pluto.com. They actually provide a very competitive pricing when it comes to online payments. I think they charge you as low as 50 cents a transaction to about $1. That's probably the highest that they charge you. But then you also have the likes of Monaris, Pivotal Payments that are well-known brands in the industry, and they all have their own ways in which they would charge you as a customer for your transactions. But again, that's another example of tools. We highly encourage you to also, again, this is a learning experience for everyone part of this webinar. So if there are tools that you've come across that our audience could learn from, please feel free to share that on the chat window or email us, and we'll use that in our next webinar. I don't want to talk about uLawPractice, but you do have practice management softwares, legal accounting, like uLaw, that you want to consider when, instead of having to do it the paper-based way. Highly encourage you to explore the different options that you have when it comes to software. And it would be ideal if it was a software that combines the components of legal accounting and practice management, because otherwise you're going to be paying two products, best of breeds, if you will, and then you still need to spend the money and time to integrate the two. So we're, part of the webinar, we're going to talk about why uLaw and how, from a solo entrepreneur's perspective, we not only save time, but we also keep you compliant, which is a big component of being a legal professional. Digital signature, again, with the advent of technology, allows you to quickly and securely sign your documents. So you're not printing paper. You're saving energy. You're going green, but at the same time, it's convenience. You have your Adobe, which is a known product. So you have Adobe Sign, and if you have an Adobe Acrobat, the signature comes comes free with that. But you also have EchoSign and HelloSign, which are competing products in the industry that allow you to quickly sign these documents, these different documents, whether it's a retainer receipt, whether it's a letter, business letterhead, whatever it is that you need to sign as part of your engagement. A very new concept to legal business, you've had different types of consults. You probably have an in-person meeting, you have a phone conversation, you have email conversations, all part of the collaboration and communication with your clients, and many times internal to your legal firm. Now, extending that collaboration and that communication comes the concept of using a tool such as JoinMe or WebEx or a new video sharing company called Zoom. Now, these allow you to actually share, almost have an in-person, but in a very virtual aspect. So it's kind of a virtual conference, if you will, or virtual meeting. We're now slowly starting to see how legal professionals, lawyers, paralegals across the industry using these video conferencing tools to communicate with their clients, communicate with their colleagues, and we at uLaw actually use JoinMe for conducting such webinars and screen shares and onboarding sessions. But WebEx is obviously and you have GoToMeeting, and you have a very new player called Zoom that specializes in video conferencing. Something for you to check out. Now, having gone through that list, having gone through typically what you would look for in terms of tools that can help you as a solo entrepreneur, we want to kind of move on to the next phase of really highlighting and talking about legal accounting and practice management. Okay? So we've talked about some of the other aspects of your business from a marketing standpoint, in terms of how you could better equip yourselves with some of the tools that are out there. Now we want to focus on legal accounting and practice management. And one of the reasons we want to talk about that is legal accounting and the compliance with the Law Society is an obligation that you have not only as a professional or as a business owner. It's something that is very unique to your profession and to who you are and what you bring to the table. And we wanted to highlight how a legal accounting and practice management software enables you and empowers you to not only energize yourself of the power of going solo, but also giving you that peace of mind, which many times is priceless. And in talking about legal accounting and practice management software, today's webinar is going to focus in the next 20 to 25 minutes, give it enough time to highlight, again, not demo for the purposes of it, but really highlight key components of uLawPractice that can really save you time and money and keep you compliant the same way. All those tools, all those aspects of those tools that can actually help you be more efficient. For those who don't know who we are a Canadian legal accounting and practice management software, and we're a cloud-based product that's proudly Canadian hosted, and our data servers are very much in Canada, and we serve Canadian legal professionals today. And we highly encourage you to visit our website, and we do offer a 30-day free trial, and it's a no obligation trial as you can check us out. Now let me quickly shift gears. In addition to these webinars, I want to highlight this real quick before I jump into the demo. In addition to these webinars, we've started a blog series that takes a topic every week, and we have well-known writers helping us with building the content. And we highly encourage you to visit our website, uLawPractice.com/blogs. These are interesting content that we'd love to share with you. So quickly, let me jump gears and jump into my uLaw. So now I'm logged into a fictitious account called Roger Moore. It's something we use all the time. And being a cloud-based software, this is available to you across any device that's connected to the internet, a huge convenience. In addition to the web version of uLaw, we currently have apps on both the iOS as well as the Android Play Store. that can actually help you save time, be more productive, and efficient. And when you log in into uLaw, one of the first things that we really emphasize is the need to save time and to get you to where you need to go quickly so that you're not searching for information and you're not wasting time, because time is precious. And in line with that, two of the more common areas that our clients have found are they're always looking for the contact information, or they're always looking for that matter that they were working on before the long weekend. So we have two dashboard elements right away. And again, this is a configurable landing page or a dashboard, and we use our settings obviously to customize this experience for each firm. But in terms of saving time and being efficient, if you look at the modified contacts, it's as easy as clicking on Sarah's information to jump right into her contact, so that whether it's a client intake or just adding some additional information to that account, just makes it that much more simpler. Okay? So that's with most recent modified contacts, and it's one of those little things, but it's often overlooked. Recently modified matters. Many of our clients use this on a day-to-day basis simply because they're not aware, especially if it's a collaborative effort, if it's between multiple colleagues in a firm. You probably want to understand what were the most recent matters that we worked on so that we can get to it right away. Okay, so if you look at my Jack versus Steffi divorce matter, and if let's say that needs attention, something that you need to take care of, it allows you to get into that matter right away. In addition to the dashboard, our quick view is probably the most used, one of the most used screens within uLaw, because it gives you the ability to search for any matter-related information. A survey in 2014 across legal professionals across North America was outside of e-discovery, outside of the e-discovery that you do for your litigation. The second highest time that was spent was actually searching for files, and that was highlighted as the second most time spender in a legal office. So the quick view gives you the opportunity to search for any information within uLaw. So if all you know was the last name of your client, and you can type that in, and it's going to go and find all those files that have a relation to that. Even if you knew your file number and that's all you knew, and if you had your own way of typing in those file numbers, you can type that in as well. So if it's not available, it's not going to bring it up. If it's available, even if it's a part of the description, it gives you that quickness and ease of search, which again cuts down a lot of time on one of the top two tasks that you do. Now coming to the financial aspects of your legal business, it's very important to keep in mind the matters that you're working on, the dockets that you have to do, the work in progress reports that you have to keep in mind. And as we help you go along that list, so you have your work in progress reports, things that you can generate for this particular month or week. A very important aspect to you planning your legal business is also planning how you want to execute your dockets and your matters as you intake clients. Okay? So having a better plan, a better work in progress report so that you're totally aware of the work that needs to get accomplished is a big time saver. Now let's say you've gone ahead and put in all the effort. Another very big component that our clients miss is once they actually docket, many of our clients miss the need to raise an invoice. Whether it's dealing with trust money or if it's just a general payment where there is no trust money involved, regardless of the situation, for you to get paid as a business owner, it's very important that you actually generate an invoice, because an invoice is that formal document that you can present to your client so that either you can let them know that that's the amount of money that you're going to now move from trust to general, or that's the document that outlines what they need to pay you and how much they owe you. So let's look at this particular matter that I was working on. So there's one billable docket, and even within the matter, we highlight that. We tell you that there's an invoice pending, and if there were any invoices, you know right away what those were. But most importantly, it's important to note that once we highlight there's an invoice pending, we also highlight once the work is done. So if you've done the right thing, you looked at that particular matter, you find for Mr. Goswami's matter, you need to do that invoice. So you go ahead and download that invoice. And let's say you email it to your client. We obviously not only change the status right within the matter, but when you jump into the dashboard, you and others who are working on uLaw in a collaborative environment would realize that that work has been done. It's off the checklist, and it's one thing you have less to worry about. We always tell our clients this particular dashboard element ideally should be empty, because that means you've really taken care of every invoice that needs to go out of your firm for that day, week, or for that time period. We don't end there. So let's say in an electronic world today, we recently did a paperless office through uLaw. We have clients who essentially just send an email. So they compose an email. A lot of time savers include the ability to generate canned responses. So Gmail, Outlook, all these email clients give you the opportunity to create these templates ahead of time. Again, a big part of your time saver, right? So you may want to take advantage of any email client that you have, Gmail, Hotmail, or even Outlook. Create those canned responses. So when you send out invoices, give or take, there's going to be some common components to that email when you draft it. So make it simpler for anyone else in your office to quickly use that template. So it's one standard set of English that's used, or communication style that is used for correspondences. So basically just drag and drop your invoice. That's as easy and simple and time saving as possible. Now let's assume that your client has received that invoice. He or she would open it up, and beyond the fact that it tells them the dockets and anything else that's involved, or the retainer that was paid, it also tells them the retainer balance in trust. Now let's assume a matter where there was no trust involved, okay? And we're going to talk about how an invoice, as simple as an invoice, is a time saver in uLaw. If I go ahead and click on action and hit new matter, and I'm now going to create a small claims. Real quick, right? I'm just going to say small claims. I'll mark this as an area of practice. And within uLaw, the convenience is that you can have multiple types of dockets. So for the purposes of this demo, let me just switch this to a flat rate. So I'll say document drafting, I'll say $200. And as I carry forward with actually doing that docket, you're going to notice there's no trust money in, that's the projected balance. The same thing happens. Invoice pending, I go back to my dashboard. Within my invoice pending matter, I have that same small claims that I was working on. Okay, so you're going to see how iteratively it's involved. So I'll do the same thing real quick. And there's really a method to the madness as to why I want to demonstrate this to you. Let me just go ahead and hit download. Now this is an invoice. Again, you probably send it out as an email the same way, but this is an invoice that has no trust money involved, and it just has $200 plus tax owing. And when you send it to your client, you see that it's amount due. What we do is we go one step further. Not only does your client receive that invoice electronically, he or she is now able to pay you at their own leisure electronically as well. So we attach this link that gives them the ability to quickly pay for that invoice. We integrate with Monaris, Pivotal Payments, and other banks that we are currently working with in testing our pilots. But today we integrate with Pivotal and Monaris. Now both these institutions will give you the opportunity to pay or allow your clients to pay at their own leisure. Now this validates their credit card, ensure there's enough fund in their card, And when they hit pay now, it actually validates, ensures, and comes back with a response. They get an email. You, as the legal professional, will get an email as well, which talks about that payment being approved. Okay? Right away tells you, as soon as Mr. Arnold paid you, it really tells you, and that's the convenience. And those are the types of technologies and techniques and tools that you need to not only ensure peace of mind, but also make it efficient and fast, because you can then take that time spent to do other higher activities. So all you need to do today is look at that email and ensure you've mentioned that to your legal accounting software, because that's what's going to marry at the end of the day the reconciliation for the month. And giving them a receipt is just a click of a button. It's as simple as that. And if you're dealing with multiple matters, we even ensure that it's to the right matter that it's associated with. Okay? And that's pretty much it. So that was as simple as that, to actually create a matter, docket the time, raise an invoice, and actually get paid. And when the payment receipt is ready, you do the same thing. Not only do they have their own link, but you can actually send them another link saying, thank you, and maybe create a template for that. And drag and drop the retainer receipt, and off it goes. So within about 5 to 6 minutes, you've actually completed a complete transaction of docketing, creating a matter for a client, docketing their effort, raising the invoice. In fact, the client was, in this case, was good enough to actually pay you right then. And as soon as you got the payment, made it a practice to put it into your bookkeeping software and send them the receipt. Okay, so that's the extent of automation that you should consider as you continue down this path as an entrepreneur and a legal professional, because that's almost become the need of the hour. Okay, and I'm sure the time that you spend is always going to be relative to the number of clients that you have. Initially, when there are fewer number of clients, obviously it seems that you have more time, and hence the natural inclination to do things manually. But I think by design, if you can have a mature outlook about how you want to manage your firm, and by design have it automated, then that's going to take care of your business, whether you have 1 client or 20 clients, because that's already set up for best practices and efficiencies. Okay? Another big part of an efficiency, again, very specific to the legal profession, is there's a lot of documentation that goes around, whether it's retainer letters, or whether it's receipts, payments, or even court forms. Okay, there's always documents that are a big part of your legal business. Yet another way in which we wanted to save time for our clients is within court forms, where repetitive information gets typed or handwritten every time you generate a document. And we brought in the concept of additional parties, and we make it a point to actually go look at your website, the court websites, bring down those forms, and update them every time they're updated within a quick 2-week window. So here's a way that you can associate, let's say for this small claim court, Steffi Jones as a contact. I'll save her information, and I'll add her to the mix as a party. Okay? Close this down. And again, we can look at different silos, but for just the purposes of time, let me quickly look at a small claim, because this is a small claim, and we will do the plaintiff. Let's assume that Enel is the plaintiff, probably do the respondent. You can actually add another party, and that could be the representative of Steffi Jones. And you can now start bringing all those different parties that are associated with that particular matter. Now, when you, as the legal professional representing Mr. Goswami have to generate that form, which you can actually put in as a docket saying document generation. You have the opportunity to do that at a click of a button. So you can quickly go in and say plaintiff's claim, type in the courthouse. So let's say it's the Ottawa courthouse. And if there's a claim number that you already have, type that in as well. And my apologies, probably should have done this as a defendant. Okay. We'll do the same thing again, a plaintiff's claim at the Ottawa courthouse. And by hitting download, what uLaw essentially does is takes all that information, because you've already given that information to uLaw once. It repurposes that information. So Steffi Jones was a contact that I had already had in my database that you add one time. And let's say there's this one representative that you come across all the time. You want to enter that information just one time in uLaw. So here's Steffi Jones, and here's Mr. Stefan Edberg's information, right? So you've got their address, you've got all the information. And all we do is we repurpose all that information that you've given us, again, to save you time and to provide those efficiencies back to you running your business. And we enable an auto-filling of all that information. So here's your courthouse, with its address, phone number. Here's your plaintiff's information. Mr. Arnold Goswami, you got us. And this is an editable document. So if you really need to add more to this mix, you can continue to do that. And you've got your information. You've got Steffi Jones's information. You also have her representative's information, all pre-filled at a click of a button. Okay. Now, for Silos of Practice, apart from small claims, we are able to attain almost from anywhere from 60 to 95%, and in some forms even 100% for all these different silos. So that's kind of the time that you save in using, let's say, an integrated software like uLaw that not only manages the practice management aspects of it, it gives you the convenience of using cloud and the power of the tools that you have within uLaw and the features, but also extends its capabilities for form filling as well. So you've got for landlord and tenant, DOA, HTA, up to criminal. Now, it doesn't end there. So these are all things that you need to do on a day-to-day basis for your client. Add a client, you docket them, you're probably going to raise an invoice. You may even have disbursements. But we quickly looked at how you do that. Now let's take a quick look at the previous example where there was a trust involved. And this is where it traditionally gets tricky. Now what's important with a matter that has trust is not only are you invoicing, but there's one additional step that you need to do so that you can make your money as a business owner. And that is moving that trust funds from your trust account to your general account. Don't want to get too technical. That's a webinar for another day. But just letting you know that if there's trust funds involved, if there's a retainer involved, as and when you continue to invoice, you're actually drawing off that retainer. But to actually move that money to trust to general is when you make your money. So to do that, we've kept it really simple. You click on the question mark, and we highlight right away that that's the pending trust transfer that's involved. Now, the question we've been asked is, how do I really remember which matter has a pending trust transfer, and how do I know it at a quick snapshot? So we have a report just to answer that one simple question, which probably is the most important question to you as a business owner. And we call it the invoice balance report. Now you may think, where is the efficiency coming from? Now the efficiency really is coming from knowing where you can make your money, and through a report that ideally tells you how much you should make and from who. And this would relate to not only your trust money, this also relates to the collection of payments that you need to receive from clients as well. Because if you're not making money, then you're not in business, okay? And the biggest mistake our clients have done in the past, or legal professionals often leave on the table, is the money sitting in trust. So here's the report within a matter of 10 seconds. Pretty much tells you here every client. Again, this is a test database, so please don't mind the quality and the quantity of the content. But you see all these different clients, and in one quick snapshot, it tells you the balance, the trust balance, the pending trust transfer, and what the client owes. And this particular column is your money sitting on table to be made. And if I were to come down, we looked at Mr. Arnold Goswami had about $226 left in trust money left, and that's exactly the 226 we're talking about for Mr. Goswami's matter that you can now transfer. So when you look at that report and then take the right actions, you're not only making money, but you're being advised to do so in a much faster way. Instead of you having to go through each and every file, remembering what that status was, knowing where the money is, and being able to do the appropriate amount. It's also important to keep in mind as a legal professional what the guidelines and the compliance factors that are governing your profession. It's equally important to know how much is the eligible trust amount that you need to transfer. Because if you, if you're under transferring it, then that's a different issue. But if you sometimes over transfer on trust, that is most certainly frowned upon. We quickly give you the opportunity to transfer that from your trust account into your general account. And we go one step further in terms of building that efficiency for you. Now, in Ontario, if you are a legal professional in Ontario and you move those funds, so let's say you've done the right thing, now you're moving the funds electronically, which is one bank to another using, let's say, your web bank. When you do that, the Law Society, as part of its bylaw, requires you to fill what they call as a Form 9A. And you probably have heard of this. And what we do is we right away give you the opportunity to enter that. So we just ask you for the requisition number, or really the correspondence or reference number, and we ask you to give us one time your trust and general account information. So you just give it to us one time. And you hit download. Not only have we saved you time, but we ensure that you're compliant with the bookkeeping guidelines and the bylaw. So this is an editable PDF. You would technically sign this, again, using your digital signature, whether it's Adobe, EchoSign, or whatever tools you may have to sign documents like these, and you would file it. Okay? Now that you've done that, all these documents, so we looked at, at least 6 or 7 documents that we have generated so far. In terms of saving you time so that you're not scampering for these documents, because it's important to store those Form 9As and store those retainer receipts as part of your file, we go one step further in that context to integrate with the cloud storage such as Google Drive, which I highlighted, and we're extending that capability to other storages as well. And this gives you the opportunity to quickly integrate with Google Drive. So for that particular file of Mr. Goswami, we create a Google Drive folder where you can throw in all these documents, and it's available to you right from your app. It's available to you on your web version of uLaw, and it's always available for you to access. So when time comes to audit, if you really make it a habit and a practice to generate these documents as and when it happens, do the right things, but also ensure as a habit, as a design, to store them right away within the context of that matter, then you're not left to scratching your head when time comes to audit, or let's say when you do your monthly reconciliation, scampering for where those documents are. So it's as good as moving all those documents, and these could be different templates, different styles, and you can even drag and drop. I'm just going to use an example of a driver's license that I often use. And this happens, right? As a legal professional, when you actually take the client ID verification, you probably scan your client's driver's license. It's a very practical, pragmatic thing. And when you do that in the context of Google Drive, when you refresh it, all those documents are available to you right within the context of that file, right within uLaw. Okay, so then you log out of the system, you take a break on the weekend, come back on a Monday, it's still available. More importantly, when you're collaborating within your law firm or your legal firm, and if you use a tool such as the Drive or Gmail or any other distribution system, it's equally important to note that we give you the opportunity to collaborate as well. So let's say your assistant was the one that actually did the driver's license. He or she could actually add a description to it. Okay. Let's say there's a little note, there's a little discipline that you have within your legal firm of how you collaborate. You could put that in your notes, and those notes are available equally as well. Okay. This is important so that you're not only being collaborative in your effort, but it's also being meaningful to the context of the file. Because that's, you don't want to again spend time about who actually scanned the driver's license. Maybe it was the wrong driver's license, and you probably want to know that. Okay? So uLaw empowers you through its own features and functionalities, but can also extend itself to collaborate with third-party tools that are out there for you to use and maximize your efficiencies. And last but not the least, before I pause and move along to the Q&A within the last 5 minutes of this webinar, it is really key to not only track, but often measure where you're going. Because as a business professional, it's important to plan where you want to be in the next 6 months, where you want to be in the next 6, 9, 12 months, right? So you really want to have that planning. How do you plan that? And the first way to plan it is to track it. That's what we've done. We've tracked that this particular matter was an area of practice of a family law. We've tracked that every time you created a particular matter, you've tracked it as a small claims matter. And now you want to measure what has happened with everything that's happened. So when you do it on a day-to-day basis as a design, you probably don't recognize that. But let's say 2 months down the line, you want to know, okay, I've been in this now for a couple of months. Where am I making money? Am I even making money? Or what are the area of practice that my revenue is coming higher from? So we have this final feature called the analytics that really gives you the power of a large law firm. Because law firms have not only the manpower, but the money power to employ individuals who can do this for them. And this is our first humble step in that direction to help you with insights about your law office. So I want to understand, first and foremost, for this quarter, how am I doing? So right away, it tells you the top 10 answers that you probably need. So right now for this quarter, it's a great quarter because it's an operating mode and you made $2,500. That's the amount of profit that you made this profit in the particular quarter. It talks about your income statement, your expense, the highest revenue that you received. These are questions that you probably don't ask every day, but you certainly should ask yourself, take a step back, ask yourself, if possible, every week, if not every 2 weeks. And ask, if you have people, checks and balances to take care of this, you probably will ask every month. And let's move on to what else type of questions that you may want to ask yourself. Let's say you want to compare your fee book by month, where you are today and where you were last year. You can do that. You can say, I want to understand for this particular month, what was my revenue? Okay. So you look at that and say almost 59% of my revenue for the month of April came from small claims. Maybe I want to compare it with how did I do last month? Okay. You can still do that. You could say, all right, let me change the date range. I'm going to do it for the month of March. And the same comparison, real quick. Just a matter of seconds, click a button. Interesting. So this month, small claims is the top performer, but last month And unfortunately, you had your expenses as your top fee. Again, these are expenses that are recoverable from the client. But the next big thing was the small claims, which still is a big part of your business, and that's how you have that spread. Now, you can also compare the most important aspect, the expenses. So if you want to keep a quick tab on your expenses, you can actually do that too. So you want to look at the expense by month, and almost 62% went on office supplies, and you had about 20% on OPA fees, and about 70% on expenses on client amount. Again, you're able to compare that, and I think you get the idea. The analytics is not something that is very operational. What's operational are the ability for you to quickly add contacts, quickly docket time, effort, quickly raise invoice, and get paid fast. And doing that all in uLaw, also in a very subliminal way and in an easy way, keeps you compliant, because we allow you to now generate all those ledgers, all those law society documents that you need behind the scenes, so that you're not only fast in what you do, but you're also compliant. So here's a quick view, just finishing up my thought process here. So you quickly have a comparison between your revenue by category and your expenses by category. And you look at that and you say, all right, my expenses on client accounts were about 64%. And this month, it's about 17%. So that's the kind of comparison that you, as a business owner, are able to give yourself in using a tool such as uLaw. Now with that, I want to wrap up today's webinar, and I want to open the floor for any questions that you may have in the presentation and the demonstration of uLaw so far. And we highly encourage you and request you, in fact, to help us with providing your feedback on the webinar and any other topics that you would like us to cover going forward. A quick reminder that you can check us out at uLawPractice.com. Please do register for our upcoming webinars, and we deliver CPD webinars almost on every last Friday of the month, and we're looking to increase that as we move along. And please do visit our blogs to have some interesting content read. Thank you, and I will wait to answer any questions that you may have. So a quick question is hoping you can do a quick demo of Form 9A. I think I just did that. But if I, for some reason, ran on that, let me do it again. So the question is about a Form 9A. So let's go to the particular matter, which actually had trust money involved. So there's still about $774, and let me go ahead and do a second client meeting. And I will make this as a flat rate, and I would say $250. And again, we have our spell check, which is obviously not a great one. The spell check is good. It's just my choice of choosing the wrong one. You can italics it, whatever you like to make it look appealing in your invoice. And the most important aspect to that is also capturing the time that you spent on the docket. So let's say you spend an hour and you're charging your client $250. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So that's about $250 plus tax that's removed. I will go ahead and raise that invoice, and I could use various teams. Okay. So let me go ahead and use a hot pink. You can even mark this as paid, so that because there is money still left in trust, and your client probably wants to know that, and it's just a comfort you're providing him that he doesn't have to make any payments. So let's say you've sent that invoice. The client is aware of that. We'll look at the invoice when it comes, but the most important thing on Form 9A, when you hit the question mark in that particular matter, we have about $282. That was the $250 plus tax. You hit the transfer. Now keep in mind, you obviously do the actual transfer in real life first, and then come and tell uLaw how you did it, right? Because that's really the chronological order in which that happens. But we keep you compliant. So if in fact, every time you do raise an invoice that involves trust money, we send you a quick reminder. So even before you do it in real life, you will receive this email that tells you, hey, Roger, it's for Mr. Goswami, you have to transfer 282. So the most important line is this. So when you're at the bank or when you're doing this electronic fund transfer, you know this is the exact amount for which you need to do it, okay? And so let's say you do that. So to answer the Form 9A question, it helps you move from your trust account, again, it's a placeholder, and you want to mark the method of payment as electronic fund transfer for our rule to set in, and the TD or RBC bank, who you work with, are going to give you a reference number for that transfer, and in uLaw, you hit transfer. As soon as we know that it's a transfer in the electronic fund transfer method, we allow and prompt you to fill in the Form 9A. And as I mentioned, once you provide it one time, that information is now available, and all you need to do is hit the download. And here's your second Form 9A for this matter. Again, this is an editable PDF. And like everything else, you sign that, and you drag and drop that into your Google. Okay. I hope that answered that question. So today's topic, good question. So just highlighting for those who joined us a little bit late, this is not accredited for CPD, and the title of today's topic is Solo Power, Practice Management and Legal Accounting Tools Available to Solo Practitioners. It's not accredited for CPD, but we are recording this, and we'll have that available to you, and we'll send a link to you as well, and it's always available within our YouTube channel. And I think a quick question is about the financial documents. We do have a separate webinar just focusing on that, but I would still consider it as a quick time saver, because when you look at the uLaw way of doing things, when you go into accounts, we have a tab called the compliance. This, again, is a huge time saver because you do need to do the reconciliation on a monthly basis. And these are all the top 10 documents that you probably need to store and have available readily when time comes to audit. These are the top 10 documents that you need to store. So we looked at client's trust. Again, it's a really click of a button, because you don't have to ensure that you're not spending time doing this manually, or if it's not easy enough, as quick as uLaw. So let me specifically choose Mr. Goswami's trust ledgers. Now, he did have 2 matters. And pretty much it. Click of a button, you know what the trust amount is on his matter. Okay, so here this is a Law Society compliant or bookkeeping compliant ledger for this particular individual. And you can do that, you would technically and ideally do it on a monthly basis for all clients. Okay, so as soon as you do that, you're done with that. You do your clients general. You can do it for the entire month for all your clients. And that's how we just keep going on a monthly basis. It's as simple as clicking a button to generate the documents you need. So we have right from trust receipt, general disbursement, the informatic trust transfers, if you deal with that. If you don't need it. Fee book, expense book, and the trust reconciliation. And the trust reconciliation is as simple as telling us what the amount is and telling us what's outstanding, both from the checks and deposits. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to take the last question for today before I wrap up this webinar. Is about how do I import bank statements? Okay, that's a good question. So hopefully somebody knows what that is. So this feature in uLaw, again, part of maybe a big part of the convenience, allows you to import your bank statements. So let's say you download your monthly bank statement from TD, RBC, or whatever bank that you work with, and bring that information in right into uLaw. This saves you a lot of time in you not having to type it into uLaw or any legal account or any accounting software. So technically what we do is we allow you to pick an Excel sheet or a CSV file and upload it right into uLaw, and that we read that entire CSV file and we bring that in. If you notice, there were certain files that were already used, and if it's already imported, we even tell you what it is. So let me look at an Asian, let me look at Starbucks. I'm going to say it was an office expense. We're smart enough to also understand that Starbucks should potentially be a meal. So let's say it was a meal, put that in, and you provide the amount, and you hit submit. So we know, that's how we know as an account or bookkeeping software what's really happened in your real world with regard to your general account. Okay, so I hope that answers that question. This is really what our bank feature is. Okay, so once again, thank you for joining us in today's webinar. Hope this was an informational session and your time well spent. And this webinar will be recorded and be available to you for viewing it later. So for those who join a little bit late, not to worry, we will have this to you in your inbox. Thank you very much, and have yourself a great remainder of the day.